going on, ladies and gentlemen? You're connected with us, the High on Life podcast. My name is Josh. I have Parker next to me. What's up?
Hey, what's up? I'm doing well. Thank you.
Good.
Yep.
What about you? What's your name?
Justice sometimes.
Sometimes. All right, we'll get that fixed later.
Okay, thank you.
And our special guest for today's podcast over here is
Julian DeSchutter.
What's his name?
Oh, they broke it.
No. I know. We have Julian DeSchutter on the podcast today. And,
You even said it right.
Correct.
You even said it right.
Well,
Do people mess it up a lot?
All the time.
Wow. What do they usually say?
It's DeSchutter.
Oh, God.
Or they just think my
So
actual
literal.
last
It's a French name, right?
is Deschutes.
It's a French name?
It's Belgian.
Belgian?
Belgian Dutch.
what does it
In
mean?
Dutch, how would you say it?
DeSchutter.
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 I can't do the throat thing.
Is there, there's
That's
no
they
like,
gotta-
DeSchutter.
Yeah,
There's
that's on the beginning side.
And you are the
Crazy.
you
Okay.
are the founder of a group known as Chasing Sunrise.
That is
that
correct.
And
You're two for two.
2 for, yeah.
Better
Do a little bit
than
of
most
research, baby.
times.
And what do you guys do?
Still trying to figure that out.
Ah.
No, it started as just a group of friends getting together and climbing mountains for sunrise, as the name says, and then kind of grew into a pretty large community in Vancouver, and it's spread partially around the world now.
Nice.
It's pretty crazy how quickly it's grown, eh? Like, I remember when actually Parker first introduced me to you. I think it was very local and very in the infancy of, what year was that probably?
It was like 3-4 years ago now, and the idea just in general was super cool. He invited me to come out. Hey, we're going to go hike Mount Seymour, I believe, which is a mountain that in the winter time I have snowboarded or skied, but I hadn't heard of hiking it in the summer. And he goes, yeah, we're going to get there for like 4:30 in the morning or something so that we can hit the summit somewhere around 6:30 when the sun should be rising. I was like, that sounds ridiculous. I'd love to be a part of that. So I did, came out, and that was the first time I came out for any of the Chasing Sunrise stuff. And it was really great. Everyone was super cool. They were all friendly people looking for a great adventure outdoors, some exercise, some fresh air. We got to the top. Somebody had like a huge urn. We put together hot chocolates and stuff.
Wow,
It was a really good time. Just on the top of a mountain that I'd never hiked to before in my life. Sunrise came up. It was gorgeous. Great experience.
How long have you been running Chasing Sunrise here?
It started about 3.5 years ago, and it never started as something, and then just
Okay.
like slowly kept morphing into
Right,
this
you
thing.
didn't just wake up one day and like, Chasing Sunrise.
No, man, we just wanted to go have fun. We just wanted to go do that fun stuff.
Yeah. I remember it was you. I remember meeting you, and you had those tanks still that said, was it life's too short?
Too short to pay bills and die.
Yeah, exactly. And that, I remember actually seeing that. I had never heard that before, and it stuck with me after I read it on your guys'
Did you
tank
come
top.
up with that?
Yeah, I was the one that put it on a T-shirt. Where it came from was a mix of like my brain, probably seeing some stuff online somewhere, and it just kind of formed into something. So I'll take credit.
Okay, I got a question for you. Why do you not have any shoes on?
Why do we got to wear shoes,
Yeah,
man?
well, you know, what shoes.
We don't got to wear
We
shoes.
don't-
I
don't
personally
have
kept
to.
mine on.
I,
because my
I
feet
invite
stink.
all
Why
three
not?
of you to take your shoes off.
No.
Right.
Well,
I went on the washroom and changed earlier. My feet stink, and it would ruin this podcast
I
for
actually
everyone.
was wondering
If we cut
what
this
that
short,
smell
then
was.
we'll know what happened.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not doing it. Not doing it. I'm comfortable.
At least
I'm
you-
sorry. The
know what?
People watching would
Yeah.
probably smell it somehow.
I just tried taking my shoes off here, and I feel very grounded.
Right?
And
You
what a
just
feeling.
feel connected.
Where'd
yeah.
you get that from?
I mean, I feel like a monkey. I can stand on my toes, or I can stand on my heels.
You're
Yeah.
partially a
Oh,
monkey
crazy.
if you.
Yeah, well, if
really
you want to
wanna
get
get
into it, I'm
scientific.
partially banana, but I
Great
don't think we're going to go that far to the chromosomes.
All right, bringing it back to the ground here.
Yes.
So I just want to say, from the infancy of Chasing Sunrise, you've been a master of bringing people that normally don't have a community in the city or just don't usually get out of their comfort zone. You've kind of catered to these type of people. You bring them together and you make them do, or you get them to do some crazy shit like hike mountains and drink coffee from urns at like 5:30 in the morning. No one does that, but you've been able to take these people out of their zones. And how the hell did you start doing that? How did you find these people, and how have you excelled to continue doing that all over the world?
Yeah, it's been a crazy journey, but like the core of it, people just want to live.
Yeah.
You know, like it's safe to go around that like you ask 100 people and you're like, hey, do you want to live a good life? And everyone's like, yes. You know, and then you look at how we set up most of our like day-to-day lives, and most of it is not actually what we want to do. And so it just really started as a group of friends asking the question like, hey, what fun stuff do we want to go do? And then most importantly, actually going out and doing it. And that's where the whole like early morning thing came. Was we actually got up at 4:30 in the morning for a month straight, with the sole intention of getting up and just doing that stuff. You know, I think we're so prone to like do it when I get home from work. I'll go do all the fun stuff that I want, but
Right.
you get home, the world stepped into your day, you're beaten down, you're exhausted, and you're like, cool, I'm just going to watch Netflix and chill out.
Yeah.
I like that the world stepped into your day. That's cool.
You get up at 4:30 in the morning and you're like, cool, what do you want to do right now? Like, you're like, damn, I got up, like, and you don't want to waste it, you know? And so we just started to like we'd go for like 3-hour walks in the morning, which sound like super chill, but it was like just some of the best time to have conversations. We'd start climbing mountains at 4:30, 3:30 in the morning. And it was all stuff that you'd put in before your day started. And so like you'd roll into the office at 9 o'clock and someone's like, oh, how's your morning? And you're like, well, I've been up a mountain, caught sunrise, come back down, grabbed coffee. Oh, and I'm here.
And what did you do?
Yeah. Well, and it was just that whole thing where like you realize like when you put yourself first in like a non-selfish way, you feel really good about who you are and you get to show up, and you show up as just who you actually want to be. And the really cool thing is like when we were getting up at 4:30 in the morning, you take a lot less bullshit in your life because you create this space where you're like, you have to ask yourself what you want, and you no longer want to waste time as much as you do. Like when you get up at 9 o'clock in the morning to go to work, like you get up and life just steps in. And from that point forward, you're basically training yourself to just go do whatever the world throws at you. You know, like when you're getting up at 4:30 in the morning, you don't care about what the world's doing because the world's asleep. And so you actually start listening inside a little bit more. And like that little voice for me was like a huge thing that ended up pushing Chasing Sunrise to what it is.
It's a beautiful concept, actually. It's your time. I love the way you say the world steps on your day right when you get to work. Because if you just wake up and go straight to work, you're serving the world. You're in the bustle, the rat race, whatever you want to call it. But no one's up. Keep your phone on airplane mode. Go do whatever you want. That's your time. No one can take that away from you.
That's another thing that I wanted to touch upon too, is when you're up that early, there is nothing going on. You can drive down the roads and there's barely another car around. Nobody's really doing anything. You got the odd person here and there, but anytime you go somewhere, whatever your destination is, you look around and there's just nothing, no one to be seen anywhere. And you're like, well, I'm totally on my own with, friend A, B, and C. Let's go do whatever it is that we want to go and do. And we've got nothing else around to clutter our minds, our brains, nothing to distract us. It's just us. It's a cool feeling.
You got the keys to the city, man. Like
That's right.
It feels like you got this. I remember for the first month I did it, and it was like you just felt like every morning was on borrowed time, and you're like, where is this free time where like you don't have any of like notifications coming in, you don't have emails to go check, you don't have all these things that when you start to pay attention to them literally sit in the back of your mind, you're all day long. And you're just like, cool, this like, it's almost like when somebody gives you like $1,000 and they're like, you have to spend this right now, and you just go blow it. And that hasn't happened to me, but I imagine
Anyone.
Fingers crossed.
you get that feeling where it's just like nothing matters but like what you actually want to do. And I think a lot of us haven't felt that in a really long time. And I know for me, like carving out those spaces in my life has become super important part of like actually maintaining my mental sanity in this world that's getting faster and crazier than ever.
Yeah.
And how does that affect your evenings now when you're getting up, let's say a month straight at 4:30? What time are you going to bed? Does that change your general day-to-day evening time schedule?
Yeah, so like by biology, I'm wired night owl. I absolutely hate getting up first thing in the morning, but I just love the space that it brings. And I love, like, I've come to fall in love with that time where nobody's getting after me. And so one rule in life is I never cheap out on sleep. I think the whole like hustle hard, don't or I'll sleep when I'm dead, work is killing us. Like biologically we know it is, scientifically we know it is. So it's just, you just basically cut your time back and you're like, I need 7 hours of sleep. If I'm getting up at 4:30 in the morning, you just wind that back and that's when you go to bed.
What is that? 7, 5? What's that? 9 o'clock?
I didn't want to do the math. I'm like, let's screw this up.
Yeah. I get that. I think my issue is I'm a night owl as well, and I'll always end up by no choice. It just ends up being a bedtime by 12 or 1 o'clock. So even if I try to get up at the gym at like 6 or 7, I just feel so exhausted because I don't make that disciplined decision to go to bed early, or at least put myself in bed and
can
go
you
to sleep.
Can you fall asleep just like, okay, well, I'm getting up early tomorrow, so I'm going to bed at 7:30. Can you then fall asleep within 30 minutes, or do you stay awake for a couple hours because you're not used to it?
Yeah, it's like anything in life, right? Like it takes time to get into,
Yeah.
Where it's like, but once you're like, and that was the cool thing when I first started with my partner, Gordon, business partner. It was just one of those things where you're just like, the first 5 days were hard. And then after that, you build a habit and a rhythm and it sticks into it, Like most of us try something that we want to do it for a day or two and like, damn, this is hard. And then you quit. Nobody actually commits to it. And so when we committed to it, it was 21 days every single day. And you just went through it. And like the first week was hell. And then the second week got easier, and by third week, it just becomes routine, and you're like, oh, time to go to bed.
I think it's awesome that you actually had something to do it with as well. Because do you think you could do the 21 days if you was just by yourself?
I think I could, but
it's a mental challenge for sure.
But it ruins the point of it, you know? Like, the point of, and I think that's the thing, is like the point of doing anything in life isn't to like grind away and beat the hell out of yourself. Like, it's to have fun, you know?
Yeah.
And having somebody to do it with that turned it into this challenge where, like, on the days I didn't want to get up, it'd be like 4:25, and all of a sudden I'd hear these knocks on my door, and I'm like, damn it.
Yeah.
You know, and you're like, but you're
accountability.
Yeah, you got somebody to rely on, you know, and the days he wouldn't get up, it's like, cool. You got to get up, man. You know, make him coffee.
I've perused your Instagram pages a few times, and like I've seen some really cool spots, destinations, sometimes where you're just like in the middle of a frozen lake or something, or even other times you guys are you got a group of people in bathing suits in an ice lake somewhere. Like, how do you guys figure out where you're going to go this time, and how do you choose this kind of thing? How do you know where's another spot to go hiking?
You just kind of go with what you feel. Like, I think that's the thing, is like, we're trying to find formulas for everything, and it's like, you kind of think, hey, this might be fun, and you go do it. You know, like, I think that's one of the craziest things, like, especially living in a city like Vancouver. Like, if you get bored in this city, you're screwed, man. This is like one of the most fun, accessible cities in the world.
Yeah.
You know, from right now, like, I went sledding the other day, and it's like, we decided to go at 1 p.m. And by 3 p.m., we were sitting on top of the mountain overlooking Sea to Sky Highway. You know, it's one of the most accessible places in the world, and it's kind of one of those things where, like, you just go put yourself out there, and like, we've done stuff that just absolutely does not work out. You know, we've tried to do days where you go float down a river and there's no water. We've done days where you float down a river and there's so much water that it turns into whitewater floating. You know, and like, it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, you just put yourself out there and just keep trying stuff out and play, and not try and have an expectation, but really just go out and have some fun. You know?
That's a good point, actually. I guess everyone's seen the successes of the great days that have planned out really well, but I guess not many people really recognize the times that it didn't work out.
Yeah, those behind the scenes struggles are real, but they don't get posted all that often.
Yeah.
No, man.
Yeah, actually, that story where you went sledding, I think that was my favorite story that I've watched so far this year. It was, you were so jacked up, and it happened late in the day, and there's choppers flying in. You were sledding. You're in the middle of Garibaldi, I think it was, Provincial Park, and it was just like, it was so beautiful. And it was the first time I was like, fuck, I wish I was there. It looked like so much fun. And I mean, I love the idea that you can just, you know, you thought you were going to have a throwaway day. That's what you said in the story. It's like, I don't think anything's going to happen today.
Dude, I was going to do puzzles all day.
Yeah.
Legit doing puzzles.
Yeah. And then what happened?
My buddy just called me and he's like, hey man, I got a new sled. Do you want to go for a burn? And I'm like, sure. You know, like, and I'm like, it's 11 o'clock. I didn't really put much into it. And
I haven't started my puzzle yet. Let's give it a whirl.
It's a 1,000-piece puzzle. I was like 15 hours into that. I was mentally torched. But it was just, and I wasn't thinking about it at the time. Like, I just kind of was like, sure, you know, like, say yes to stuff. And he drove out to his house. We drove out there. By the time I got out there, it's like 3:30. I'm like, we got time to do this, man? And we got up top, and one of the best sunsets I've seen in probably my life. And you just realize like how easy and accessible, and like there's the quick thing that you can do there where you're like, oh, but somebody had a snowmobile, like, and I'm like, you can go hike to the top of Seymour. And that, like, going back to like when Chasing Sunrise started, we came down, so it was November and there was no snow yet, and we hiked up, and it was like minus 20 with the wind chill. It was absolutely freezing. I'm wearing Nikes. The guy I'm with is wearing Nikes. Totally not dressed for the whole situation. But we're just sitting there. It's like a Thursday, and all of a sudden the sun comes up and just blows our damn mind. And we're hiking back down, and we're like trying to like figure out what happened. You get that like stoke on life. You're like, whoa. And
high on life.
Ooh. That's a good one. We should patent that.
Yeah, I think you guys could do something with that. You know,
hashtag stoked on life.
Yeah. And we're just like, what the hell's wrong with us? You know, like, this mountain has been here our whole lives. We're an hour and a half from home. This cost us a grand total of $0, and we've never done it before, you know? And I think that was the moment where we're just like, what kind of moments are out there like this that are all around us, that are basically sitting right in front of us? And I think you build up that narrative in your head that like travel is this like crazy thing where you have to like spend lots of money and fly away and go do it, which is in its own right awesome. But if you only get to do that once a year for 2 weeks, or if you get vacation for 4 weeks, you know, like 11 months of your life are going to be no fun. Like, if that's all you're looking forward to, is those 4 weeks a year, then you're toast, man. Because most of your life is going to be spent not doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
And for us, this kind of just like hit us in the face where it's like, how do we have fun every weekend? How do we have a good time? You know, and what I've learned over the years is that like the right group of people with the right mentality can be put in a field with a bunch of rocks and have more fun
100%.
than somebody living in Bali with all the stuff at their disposal.
Ooh.
That's a good way to put it.
I wanted to ask you, and you mentioned this earlier, that we live Vancouver, Lower Mainland, even Fraser Valley, BC in general. We got so many different mountains available to us, so much cool stuff to see and do and hikes to climb. For other people who maybe don't have that kind of stuff as nearby, how far do you travel or have you traveled for like a climb or a hike or something in the morning? Like, do you ever go out to like Lake Louise? You go out to Banff? Do you ever do anything that far, or is it all pretty local because of what we have here?
Driven to Mexico for tacos.
Yeah,
That's worth it.
Did that
okay.
in a
Tell us
weekend.
that story.
In a weekend
From here.
from Vancouver. It's 5,535 kilometers.
Where do we find this guy?
Expensive
Round trip.
tacos.
Jesus.
There was 12 of us. It wasn't actually. We rented 2 minivans,
Wow.
put 6 people in each minivan, so the gas was cheap. I think it cost me $150 for the minivan rental and the gas. And we drove from Vancouver to Tijuana, Mexico, ate tacos, and drove home.
In a
Wow.
weekend.
What?
In a weekend. Well, we left
This
on
is the
Friday.
mentality that
What
I
are we
want to
left
be
on
around
Friday,
more.
and we got back late Monday, probably Tuesday morning.
Was this a chasing sunrise thing or a group of Julian's crazy friends type of thing?
This sounds like a Julian
It-
DeSchutter thing.
So it was me and my buddy Cam, and we were sitting there on my couch one time, and we were just coming up with a whole bunch of stuff that we wanted to do all summer long. And I think Gordon walked in. He's like, "Hey, dude, you guys want to go get tacos?" And we're just like real Mexican tacos. And then back and forth, Cam and I went, and we're like, it was like, cool, we got to drive to like the United States. Let's go to Bellingham. They got good tacos. Then it was like, well, no, if we're going to go get it, we got to go to like San Diego. And we're like, well, no, if we're going to do it, we're going to get the real thing.
Wow.
And then it was just like, well, I work 5 days a week, so I can't do it. And Gordon's like, I can't do it. So we're like, let's do it in a weekend. And one of us pulled up Google Maps and was just like, cool. It's
If
like
everything
20
goes to plan, we should be
it's
back.
22 hours away. And you're like, so if you leave Friday and you drive nonstop, you got Friday, you'll get there midday Saturday, you smash your tacos, you get in your car and you drive home. And it turns out it works like that.
I can't believe it that you guys actually did that. I've never actually heard of anyone going on a road trip.
Did you film and document
Parts of it.
parts of it?
Parts of it, no. Like parts of it was just like for the experience.
not the whole
Oh, yeah.
thing.
I got a
but,
wicked
like,
Insta story though.
if you have some kind of like a compilation to put together of that journey, that sounds super cool.
I mean, you don't have to film anything, but just would be dope if you had it. But like,
It turns into a
that's so-
blur by hour like 7. So it's you film
Yeah.
it more for your own.
Sure.
Yeah.
that's so crazy. I guess you know what? Crazy ideas aren't that crazy if all of you agree that this is a good idea.
And you said you had 12 people with you?
Yeah.
Wow.
The little caravanning back and forth.
I need to get into that friend group.
But I think like that's the thing, man.
Doing
Like,
it right now.
everyone's response to that is like, that's insane. You know? And
I
like,
love
want
it.
the only
Yeah.
one that can say it's insane are the people that have been there.
Yeah.
And everyone that went was like, that was one of the best weekends of my life. You know? And like, I always go back to this place of like, when I'm 80 years old,
You're going to look back on that.
am I going to want to have done that? And I'm like, absolutely. I want to be some old wrinkly dude sitting there being like, when I was a kid, you know, like we
Yeah.
drove
Yeah.
these things that are called cars. You know, like, who knows what happens?
Grandpa's crazy. He's
Yeah,
talking about
just-
cars in Mexico again.
But yeah, it
Tacos.
was best tacos of my life and like one of the best experience. Like we just rode, and the whole thing was the I-5, which is not fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you bring enough skateboards, and you can just skate the whole way down the I-5 on all the little truck stops and stuff like that, and like jump into the ocean in San Diego.
That's
'cause
where
you
those
haven't-
photos are from.
That's where those
Okay.
photos are from.
Gotcha.
I think that's the most epic story I've
I'm
heard
down to
so
go
far.
back.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I've done it 3 times now.
Justice
What?
keeps nagging me for a road trip.
Let's do something crazy.
Yeah.
I've actually been, I don't know if I even told you, but I want to do something with you, not just chasing sunrise, but just with you. Like something in Bali when you go, something here.
we go?
When we go, sorry. When I got to
Conmigo.
conmigo, contigo. Just anything. Because like I love your spontaneity, your energy, your just like your love for life, and anything is go. If you think it's a good idea, let's fucking go do it.
Have people
With this
told
team
you
right
you're,
here.
you're very spontaneous? Did you win most spontaneous award when you were in high school?
I didn't. I don't know if there was that one. There was like best hair I didn't get. There was like most probability to be successful. Also didn't get that. But I did get a mention about fun. So
Oh, that's good.
maybe that works.
Yeah.
But
So coming back to chasing sunrise, what does the future look like roughly so far for you?
Yeah, like, so it's interesting because like when Chasing Sunrise started, it was like, we just want to go do fun stuff. And I think the one really cool part about CS, it was always open to as many people as possible.
Yeah.
So like when we first started on the mountain, the first day we went up, there was 3 of us. And then we came back like 2 weeks later and we threw a little Facebook post up and there was like 8 of us, which we thought was super badass. Like we're sitting there like in the parking lot and like 2 cars show up and we're like, this is cool. And then we threw it up again and 25 of us showed up. And then it just got kind of crazy where like the next one, 75 people showed up.
Wow.
And then 150 people showed up and then 250 people and then 350 people showed up. And we're doing it at like 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. And you have this mob of like 300 people in this parking lot. And that's where you're like, cool. Like this has nothing to do with like a mountain and catching sunrise and everything to do with the fact that like inside all of us, people want to live. You know, people have that like raw excitement for life and people want to go do fun stuff. And then you start stacking on like the bills and the obligations and the social stuff and just all the bullshit of life that just keeps pushing you back down. And then people like Saturday comes, you're like, hey, you want to go do something fun? You're like, I'm beat, man. I'm just going to watch Netflix and hang out, you know? And it's that cycle that I think slowly kills people as they turn into adults. You like that childish energy inside people just slowly fades away, you know? And that's a promise I made to myself a long time ago. Is like, how do you not let that die no matter what life throws at you?
Yeah.
So it just kind of started when there was this one morning where there's 350 people on top of a mountain and I'm like chatting with Gordon, my co-founder, and I'm like, this has nothing to do with being on top of a mountain and catching sunrise and everything to do with creating spaces for people to show up that align with who they are. And that's really where the direction of Chasing Sunrise has turned into is how do you actually like help people live the lives they want to live, you know? And I think that's a really interesting thing that's happening right now is like, there's so much going on in the social space about living these lives, you know, but there's so little actually done helping people to live them, you know? And I think that's a really cool space to that's going to become a lot more. And there's a lot of courses and there's a lot of coaching now. But I'm always really fascinated of like, what's the environment around that person, both from like a physical standpoint, but also a social standpoint.
Sure.
You know, like, so if somebody wants to go live this like more travel related life, are they actually supported by the friends around them?
Yeah.
And we know that like humans are connection machines, you know, and like genuine human connection. And so Chasing Sunrise has morphed more into a space where different communities can be built so that people can find people who align with who they are and go do the things they want to do. And so the future of CS is creating more and more of those spaces, both in a single city and then in multiple cities around the world.
Cool.
Wow.
What kind of feedback, you know, when people go to these things, you know, what do you hear from like people that go?
Yeah, you hear all sorts of stuff. The biggest one that really comes back is just when you get somebody back to like a space where they know they're being themselves, they light up.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's been always this quest of mine for myself is like, what space makes me feel most aligned? You know, and when I was 19, I went to school to be an engineer, got a little bit into that, and I'm like, I don't really think this works. You know, like it didn't feel right. Like I loved the idea of building something, but I quite frankly did not like doing math all day. And I'll never forget, like one of the most pivotal moments of my life was coming back home, and I was terrified because I was telling my mom that I was going to quit engineering. You know,
in engineering too?
Oh yeah. And it was just one of those moments where I'm like, is she going to say no? You know, like she was paying for my first year of university. Yeah. And so you kind of build that story where you're like, no, like stick it out, hang with it, you know, like keep going.
Yeah.
And kind of putting their projections of who they are in you. And so I was like, Mom, I want to quit. And she turns around, she's like, cool, do it. And I was just like, at that moment, like thrown back. And she's like, I have no idea if this is good for you. She's like, if you genuinely don't feel like it's what you want to do with your life, quit.
See, that's super fortunate that
Smart
you
mom.
have a parent that supports you in that sense. A really common like feedback or comments or questions that we've gotten just in the past as High on Life are a lot of people saying, you know, I'm just getting out of high school. My dream is to go traveling. I need to go traveling. I can feel it in my heart, in my soul. my parents won't let me take a year off of school. Like, I have to go into university or college right after high school. It's the way things go. It's the way my grandparents went, my parents did it, and they say I have to do it. What do you guys think, And like, that's a really tough question for a lot of people. And even the people that really just feel it in their blood, like, I need to go and see the other side of the world. We've all felt that too. We've been there. What do you tell your parents? How do you go about that? That's a tough thing to come about and to bring about with your parents. And like, I think the fact that your mom was like, if this is what you feel, go for it. Do your thing. That's cool. I think that's super fortunate. I wish, everybody could have that sense of support from their families and their friend groups.
Yeah, it is a tough one, and we get that a lot too. It's just as you said, like, what do? You're 16, you're 17, 18, 19 years old. You're stuck in a spot, but all you know is this, and your parents are paying for you. And so how do you quit? How do you convince your parents who think they know that they're blinded maybe from certain aspects of the world, like traveling, but how do you convince them? How do you sway them, right? And I think a lot of people get stuck with that.
Well, I think when you present the idea to your parents, I just want to travel the world, as a parent, they want to protect you.
Yeah.
And their ideas of, supporting yourself through travel probably hasn't been proven yet. In the last maybe 10 years or 5 years. So
yeah, fair. So what does your mom think of the whole thing now?
I think that was her gift, man. She's, as long as her kids are happy, she's happy.
Yeah, okay.
And I think that's one thing that I've really learned is, like, with just chasing sunrise and life in general, like, how do you fight for what's in the best interest of that person? And there's a balance there between what do those parents know that the kids don't know, but what do those kids know that the parents don't know? And I think, like, sort of anyone that's going through that struggle right now, like, I think there's two things. Like, the first one is a genuine conversation with the parent, like, try and understand the parent side of it. And it's hard because I think good parenting, you have to also try and understand the child side of it as well.
Yeah.
Like, try and understand, like, why does that kid want to go travel? Is it because he doesn't know what he wants to do? Is it because he doesn't want to go to university? Is it because he's lazy?
He's going to find himself.
Does he want to find himself?
Yeah.
Like,
or herself. Sorry.
I personally believe that starting university that early is crazy. You know, like, I look at myself and I switched my degree 3 times.
Really?
And even the last degree that I ended up graduating with, only 50% of it's relevant to what I want to do with my life.
What was that degree?
I did in business with finance and entrepreneurship. And finance was just one of those things. And I'm like, it looks good, but I don't really actually genuinely care about it.
My parents were big on go to school right after high school, just get that done with and out of the way, then you can do whatever you want, sort of thing. So I took business and marketing because I didn't really know what I wanted to take. And I'm not going to lie, I feel like I just wasted 3 years of my life on something that I was not passionate about. I wasn't interested in what I was learning. I was learning so that I could put it down on paper and then forget about it forever. And realistically, most of that stuff I learned does not apply to anything that I'm actually doing in life now. None of the internet marketing that we are around and experiencing was in my university studies. I didn't learn about this stuff. This stuff wasn't around. Everything's new now. So, I mean, I'm not saying that it wasn't worth it in general to go to post-secondary school, but for me, I didn't have the drive, the enthusiasm, and it wasn't really relevant to me. So I totally felt lost with it. And I can tell a lot of people sort of have that feeling as well, especially this day and age.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think that's such a hard thing that's happening now, especially with the exposure to so many different lifestyles early on.
Yeah.
But the flip side of that is, like, anyone in that position, I think there's a cool place for compromise. Like, if just say you get out of high school and it's your parents, for whatever reason, are saying you have to go straight to university. Cool. Like, those are the cards that are laid. Like, one thing I think no one should ever forget is how fortunate we are to be able to go to university.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But the flip side is like, what do you do with your weekends? What do you do with spring break? What do you do with your one semester off? And start to figure out, like, how do you make your life work within the confines of what you have? And I think that's a really cool, like, when you go back to the shirt that says you were born to do more than just pay bills and die. The whole premise of it is you're probably going to have to pay bills your entire life, and at some point you're going to die. Those are the kind of things that you can't get away from.
So what do you do on top of it all?
On top of that, and that's the thing is, like, I think there's a big subtle hate on the 9-to-5 right now, where it's like, run away, go travel, go free,
Yeah.
The truth is, the 9-to-5 provides stability for a lot of people that they would be absolutely lost without.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with
totally.
it, but it's just a cliche that people use because they're traveling and all that stuff. But I think, like, as you said, just going back to like having a 9 to 5 or having that structure in your life, you still can travel. Traveling doesn't have to be defined by going, 6 million miles across the continent to somewhere else. You can do it in your own backyard.
You could go to Mexico over for a weekend.
Exactly. I mean, I know we have this
number of sick
beautiful
days, mental health days, and
Yeah.
days I got off. We can do a lot of fun stuff.
And traveling doesn't need to be more than a weekend. Go do a road trip. Go camping. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously we're blessed with Vancouver having mountains and all this beautiful terrain in our background. But like, I'm sure if you really were creative, you can pretty much find an adventure anywhere. You just gotta look for it. And I've done this a lot. I've made excuses that like I'm stuck here working and I can't go to Mexico or Bali or whatever. But like then I just realized like for the first time we went to Garibaldi and hiked it overnight in the fall, and I'd never done that before, and it blew my mind. And I totally felt like I was in a different country, in a different environment, in a headspace completely. And I was like just embarrassed that I hadn't done that before.
That's a crazy thing. I was talking to these 3 Aussie guys, and they were talking about how they had spent their entire vacation to fly from Australia to Vancouver to go to Panorama Ridge.
Wow.
And I'm sitting here being like, I wouldn't do that on a weekend most of the time.
Yeah, right.
And but you realize that like everywhere in the world, there's something to do. And that, I think that's the crazy thing that I've really realized as I've gotten older is like all of life is the mindset, and that goes back to the right people with rocks and an empty parking lot will have more fun. Like it's really about how you do it rather than what you do. And I think we're really confused with that because when you look at the medium that we share most of our stories, it's an image, or sometimes it's a video, but generally it's not a story. It's not the how and the what behind it. It's really just this thing that we end up projecting our own thoughts onto. And so you see somebody smiling and they're on a beach and you go, oh, to be happy, I got to be on a beach.
Yep.
And we only share the more glamorous images. But the truth is that it's really, you can be on that beach and with the wrong mindset, hate it. And I know so many friends that are traveling and all over the world and they're miserable. Like they're just, I'm lonely, or this thing is getting repetitive, or I'm not actually having as much fun as I'm putting out there. And I got friends that are living in the city and never leave the city and are just always stoked on life.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a big problem. Yeah, there you go. There's a big problem with a lot of social media.
Oh yeah, we can dive into it.
Well, let's get into it. It's just that, like, as you just said, like, no matter, you have the worst life, be fighting with your spouse, whatever, having the worst time. You have food poisoning in the country, but all you've posted is you just posing on a beach, and that just shows you're living your best life. But what about all the other shit? Everyone just projects this perfect image of themselves, I think, most of the time. And that's what is viral. Everyone, positivity is viral, but everyone just shows this, shiny image of themselves, and that's not real.
Is that we all know that when you look at a picture, you know to yourself, like, oh, there must be, there's more to this. But
not everyone thinks that.
Not everyone.
Remember, you are experienced.
No, what I'm trying to say is that we look at images and we're like, you feel that sense of jealousy, or like you feel like, oh, I want that, but you also know for yourself that, yeah, there's probably more to that I'm not really looking at. And looking at images, we're just so trained in a way to respond to something so emotionally.
I just don't think that people have that mindset to go past the, you see a photo of that classic girl walking and someone holding her hand thing, which has been done a million times. I don't think people have the foresight, or most people, to be like, that's fake. There's more to it than that, right? People will be looking at it and be like, shit, I wish I had a girlfriend, or I wish I was in this country. And now they just want to travel and make their lives better because they see other people doing it, but they don't realize that is maybe not that's just a fabricated image. It could be anyone holding hands.
I would like to hear from somebody who has traveled the world and said, I absolutely hate it. I would love to hear that perspective someday.
Hopefully someone hasn't done that.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that go travel and they I'm 2 weeks and I'm done.
Yeah.
You know, I like my spot back home.
Yeah.
I so I love traveling, but the thought of continuously traveling is my version of hell.
There was a time where High on Life was doing a couple of long trips, and I didn't want to do really more than a month at a time. 2 weeks, 3 weeks for me, great. I got a good fix of wherever that place is. I did some cool stuff, saw some new culture, got accustomed to it for a little bit. But I do like home. I like my bed. I like my friends and the regular food in my fridge and the ability to go to the store and get whatever I want, whenever I want, all the comforts of home. So when we're doing a 2 month thing around the country or in Bali or whatever it might be, man, halfway through, 30 days in, I'm starting to miss home. Like I agree. I don't always want to do these big lengthy ones. That being said, like we did do 7 months around the world, like on our very first adventures. Yeah. And not gonna lie, I missed home as well then too. And like the plan was to be gone for over a year, and we cut it short. We cut it short because Riker had to come home for one thing, and then everyone else was like, okay, well, if you're gonna go home and see your family and friends, I'm gonna do that too. Yeah. And if you go out again later, then maybe we'll just come to you and we'll do something else. But I'm going to come home after 7 months. I'm calling it in there.
Yeah. Well, we preach the travel thing pretty hard because I think we all connect with it. We all see the value in it. And it's given us a whole bunch of, I'd say, wisdom and just open up our perspectives. But it's not for everyone. Yeah. And we don't force it upon people. Some people are happy to just stay at home and play with their friends in parking lots with the rocks. It's fine. as you so
what are you guys doing tomorrow?
Oh my I feel like Julian made it sound cooler than you.
Let's play some sticks.
You guys want to meet at the parking lot?
That sounds like Arjun's birthday, actually, a couple years back. But yeah, so you don't have to go and want to travel. We just like to talk about it because it's worked for us. Yeah. Essentially, we know, and we don't have to. You don't have to go for 6 months or whatever. You can go for 2 weeks. I just think
you can go for a weekend in Mexico.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think that's the cool thing is like the video you guys posted the other day of like what traveling actually means to you. You know, like I think we have an obligation to like share those types of insights because they actually shape what the person on the other end that's seeing what we're doing, what they actually think about it. You know, and I think like that level of realness, and I always hesitate to use the word authenticity, is like actually what connects somebody to you. You know, like we don't connect very well with just another person doing another thing. I call them stuff and things. You know, but when you start to share those stories behind like, hey, here's actually what I'm going through, and here's the experiences, and here's how it's shaping me, and here's the person I'm becoming. You know, like they're not as sexy and they're not as glamorous, but they mean so much more than just another post of, hey, I'm here. You know?
I think for at least myself, and maybe I feel this with a lot of my friends, just the way we're going, especially what's happened in the last like year, I find way more happiness in just being honest with people, making real connections with people through my life isn't perfect. I have some darkness. I have some sadness. I don't need to live this glamorous life and show it off all the time. Like High in Life when I first started was like, hey, look at me. I'm enjoying the world traveling, but I'd rather connect with people now and be real and tell them that I'm going through shit. And then I want people that are going through similar stuff to be able to break out of their shell and talk about it and connect through that. Not connect through, hey, I'm having a great time and I make you laugh. I want to make you laugh too, for sure. I think that's great. But I also want to give people the strength to connect and open up and let everyone know that it's okay to feel these ways. It's okay to be open about it. It's okay to talk about it. And I think that's what I think is way more beautiful than just showing yourself on a pretty beach all the time and showing that you live the best life. How long is that going to last, really, though?
Oh, man. Yeah.
Okay, so that's something that I've really realized in the last like 3 months after kind of going through a weird fall and winters. I just want to talk about what I'm feeling.
All right.
And
let's talk about your feelings.
You know what I mean? Though, but like when we had coffee the other day, we just immediately started with like, hey, how you doing? I'm doing shit. Me too. Let's talk about it. And we had a fucking good 2 hours of just chatting. And I felt that was a way better conversation than I've had in the last couple weeks with anyone that was just surface level small talk about everything's great and laughs and stuff. But
okay, well, how about we do this? Does everybody want to drop one truth bomb about what they're going through right now?
Oh snap!
Sure.
Josh, I'll start. Probably finding my identity, I guess, within this world, and figuring out what I'm supposed to do. And I definitely have felt a little lost in the past couple of years, not knowing what I'm really supposed to do, and that's affected like my productivity in a way. I was going through counseling, and my counselor would ask me like, "Oh, how do you feel about what happened?" And they would ask me, and I would say, "Oh, I feel like I feel disappointed." And then he would go and say, "Okay, how do you feel about being disappointed?" Mm-hmm. And then I never really thought about that. I feel another way, and then he would go another layer deeper and ask you, why do you think you feel this way about feeling this way about feeling this way? Oh. And then what ended up coming up was like, oh, maybe you just resent things like the way things are right now, and that's why you're reacting to the world this way. So that is my truth bomb.
It's a good one.
Okay.
That's cool, man.
Okay. Nice, solid.
So you can top that.
I'm not going to try to top
I'm
that.
just joking. It's not a game. It's not a game.
Just sharing.
It could
It's not
be.
a game. We're sharing.
Why'd you have to put pressure on this? Well, you know what? One thing that I'm sort of struggling with is enthusiasm, and especially the same level of enthusiasm that I used to have for a lot of different things. So, let's say we're going back 5 years and, all of us friends lived in the same place, and we would make videos just on the regular because we all lived together. And whenever we were doing something funny, even making a meal or something, pull out a camera, start throwing food at each other's faces and trying to catch it. Everything was funny. Everything was a game, and it was fun to film, and it was just a fun lifestyle. And we had more thoughts and more creative ideas just in day-to-day life. We worked together, we traveled together, we lived together. It was this lifestyle that was very easy to keep things rolling. Things have changed obviously drastically since then, and not that life ever could maintain or stay the same throughout. People get older and they mature and they change and things happen. But lately I don't feel as enthusiastic about, okay, you know what, I got a bunch of cool ideas. Let's get together. We'll do this stuff and this stuff. We'll put a really cool video together. I got some ideas on how we can shoot it, where this person can stand. I just don't have that like I used to anymore. I used to be really driven to exercise really hard every day. And I'll be honest with you, the last month or two, I've really kind of let go of that. I haven't had the willpower to just push play on my workout videos. I haven't had the willpower to just get in the car, go to the gym like I used to. There were times when I do it daily, and if there was ever a day I didn't work out, I was going to do a hike or something to get outdoors and get some fresh air. Recently, I feel in the last month or so, I just kind of have let down on a lot of that, and I just don't have that same drive. Not that it can't come back, but I feel almost like I'm guilty of it right now. Just that I haven't been keeping up with what I know I used to do, and I know I used to love, and that I know makes me feel good. And I don't know why I haven't really kept up with it, but that's just something that I'm sort of internally having a bit of a struggle with currently.
Do you ever get afraid it might not come back?
No, I don't.
That's cool.
I do not get afraid it won't come back. I have the ability to make it come back if I will. It's just difficult right now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Truth for me. Obviously, a lot has changed over the last 6 months, and that's changed a lot within me, but not always for the bad. I've just obviously had a lot of realizations, and through the trials of grief, a lot has come up, and mostly was that I felt very, very, very lost over the fall and the wintertime. Anger came out, recklessness, filling my life with a lot of things, drinking, not healthy stuff, whatever. And then I just came out of it realizing that I have no discipline. I don't really work that hard at many things. And the stuff that I have to show for it is I'm part of High on Life, and I'm decent at photography, and I have a pretty good friend group, but I don't think I've really worked that hard to get it, at least in my mentality. And I'm decently in shape, but I haven't fucking eaten healthy in the last over 7 months, or even gone to the gym because I had my knee surgery, but that was an excuse for me just not to even go to the gym. So I'm just I'm not doing anything. I'm pathetic. And I'm not putting myself down too hard. I just I hold myself up to this high standard, and I just realize I have no discipline. I can't even get up in the morning. I can't even cook a meal. I can't even keep my friends that I work with happy because I'm being dicks to them. I'm just at all levels just being a not good person to myself or to anyone else. And I am hard on myself in ways, but that's how I keep myself accountable. So I just realized what I wanted to do was just get up early, go to the gym, eat healthy, small little habits make a difference. And so the biggest thing I'm just really struggling right now is my discipline that I'm trying to find, but I know I can be such a better person, and I think I've been faking it for almost years. I think I've been banking, I've been living off this life of, obviously travel has been great and being a part of High on Life is cool and all, but that looks super great, which means I don't have to really do anything else in my life. That's really amazing. But I think that's bullshit. So I've been waking up and just realizing I want to do so much more. I want to be in the best shape of my life. I want to be the healthiest person ever. I want to create cookbooks. I want to be better at High on Life. I want to be better at on camera. I want to be better photographer. I want to be better friend to my friends and everything. And that takes work. So I'm just starting to realize, wake the fuck up, be disciplined, and hustle this shit and do it. And then what the fuck is the point of being on this earth if you're not working towards the things that you love and things that you want to do and that bring beauty into this world. And that's like the biggest thing that's just hit me in the face since this whole thing of being lost and like kind of grieving. So that's my wake up call. It's just like, I don't want to be half-ass anymore. I want to fucking be real, and I want to go from the heart, and I want to help people, and I just want to be the fucking justice that I thought I was or I want to be. So that's my shit right now.
Nice. Justice has been served.
Boom.
Yeah. Boom.
Boom.
Is that the first time you ever said that? I don't think so.
Oh, absolutely not.
Oh man, I just got that right now.
Really?
Oh.
Fuck.
It finally clicked.
Yeah,
All right,
finally
Julian, I'd
clicked.
like to hear from you now.
Yeah, these last few years have been tough, man. Like probably the 2 toughest years of my life. Like I'm battling like almost a mix of what all 3 of you guys are going through, you know? Like CS has been just the wildest, craziest ride of my life. Like we went from like ever since I was 19, I've wanted to build something. You know, I thought it was engineering. Turns out it wasn't. Went into business. Thought it was going to be like a company. Kind of is sort of, and it's turned into more of like a community than anything. And so I'm riding this space where I'm like exactly where I want to be. I'm playing in the space that I want to be in, but I'm also extremely, absolutely burnt out, exhausted, have no creativity, lost all my drive. Kind of sitting in this space where I get up at 10 o'clock in the morning, you know, and I'm like, I talk about getting up early most of the time, and I'm like, I can't even physically get myself out of bed, you know, and I'm just, it's not in the space of depression, it's just in the space of like absolute complete burnout, you know, and in that space, I'm like super confused where I'm like, am I supposed to be doing this thing? And so here on the outside, I'm at the front of this big growing community. It's doing all this fun stuff. I'm constantly traveling. The messages I'm getting from people is, oh, it looks like you're doing all these like crazy fun things. And on the inside, I'm like, damn, man, I feel like I'm dying, you know, like, and the reason why I asked you that question is like, do you think you get it back? Is like, I'm sitting in the space where I'm like, what if that person and that identity that I thought I was so happy with never comes back, you know? And like, what happens in that space if I never get back to that person? Do I have to completely let go of everything that I've built and worked on so far? And most of the days, like I show up right now and I'm like, I just don't have the energy to think about like what to do or where this thing's going, yet internally I'm pulling the whole weight of the world on me because I've built an identity that has to be the person in control figuring this out. And I'm like, well, if I don't keep doing this, is the whole thing going to disappear? And just that whole thing has left me in this like burnt out, confused mess on the inside that doesn't want to show up to work, doesn't want to go to the gym, doesn't want to go do all those things that I know are both good for me and that I know that like I actually care about. And yet on the outside, everything just looks awesome, you know? And I think that's one of the real reasons that for me, I've been so down to just talk about real shit now is like, I'm sitting here looking at like the differences between myself and I feel like, I'm like, that's bullshit, you know? Yeah. And I'm like, I feel like a decently driven person that has a pretty decent thought process that understands a decent amount about life, you know? And I'm like, if I'm going through all this shit, I know other people are. There's no way in hell other people are not. And I think that's been a really powerful part about like my last 2 years is like the more I open up about this stuff to people, the more other people are like, fuck, me too, man. You know, and I think burnout is like an absolutely real thing. You know, the more people that I talk to and I'm like, how you actually doing? They're like, I'm exhausted. You know, and I think that's such a crazy, like our world's sped up so much. Like even think about social media, like you basically have to be on that thing all the time. You know, and it's built it where it's like, okay, then when do you get time to like disconnect and have those ideas kind of come back and percolate, and how do you get your energy back if you're always on? And from my background in like entrepreneurship, it was like, no, got to keep going, got to keep hustling, got to keep putting out. And like for me, it just drove me to the ground, you know? And so I'm sitting here on the other side of making a decision to basically take months off, because there's no, like my mental health isn't worth it. My physical health isn't worth like the beating myself up for it, you know? And so I'm kind of going through all that, and just struggling through to figure out. And I sit here not knowing if that person's going to come back. I have like this deep faith that he will, but I don't always feel it.
Keep that deep faith and it'll come back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but yeah, that just, I don't know. I think a lot of people are sitting in that situation. And
For sure.
I think the really cool part for me is like, you can sit in all that shit and still have fun. you know, and like those don't, I think
Oh, yeah.
that was something I battled with. I'm like, if I'm going through this, but I'm like doing, like I got back from Morocco and had 10 of the best days of my life there. And you're like, but am I full of shit because I'm living in these two worlds simultaneously? And I think that's the really cool thing is like, we can have a conversation like this. And once it's all out there, get right back to having fun.
Yeah.
You know, and like, and then all of a sudden it's like, that's an actual real representation of what life is for most people rather than just always on. And I think like when you ask the question like, oh, how are you? Most people are like, good. And so because somebody else says good, it's like, I got to say good. Because if you look good and I look, you know, and we're all just wearing these masks. And the second you drop the masks, you actually genuinely connect with somebody.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, though, that I find, because there are often times where, let's call it in the last half a year or whatever, when someone asks how I'm doing, and let's say I'm not doing great, but I don't want to get into it.
Yeah.
I'm going to say good.
Pick your
because I
battles,
don't
for
want to
sure.
get into it, you know?
Totally.
So,
Yeah. Also, you got to pick who you're talking to, right? If I'm at the grocery store and there's a line behind me and someone, oh, how are you doing today? Like, actually, let me tell you my life story.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be that appropriate.
Well, I think that's a bigger like societal issue. Is like we're never actually taught how to communicate around that stuff. You know, like two of my favorite words are holding space. Like, what does it mean to hold space when you're not good? To be like, you don't have to get into it, but if you need to chat, I'm there, and I'm not going to try and Dr. Phil you back to being better. Like, I'm just going to hear your stuff, you know, and realize that you get to show up as you are, you know. And I think that's one thing that I've had going back to my mom, going back to like my best friend Gordon. Like, I've just had people around me who it's like, show up as you are. I don't need you to bullshit me, you know. And for me, I've realized how powerful that is to have people around you that don't expect you to be something, so that on the days where you are feeling like shit, you don't have to show up and pretend you're something you're not. You know, you don't necessarily have to show up and be like, oh, here's all my problems, which I think is a lot of times what we equate it to. But it just means that you don't have to hold up a facade, because that takes so much energy and that's so exhausting.
Yeah,
you know?
100%.
So,
yeah, I mean, I even felt that sometimes, just like how inauthenticity can just make you happy when you're trying to put on a facade, and it can get really draining. I mean, I've even felt that sometimes in just high on life videos, that like in the road trip, like, fuck, by the end of it, we hated each other. Well, you didn't hate each other, but we were just so sick of being on the road.
by the end of it, to a degree, we hated each other.
But the show must go on, so it was like, hey, we're still having a great time. But
that
could be
happened in a
so
weekend to
fucking
Mexico,
draining,
man. We
yeah.
came back. Oh, we were just like,
You're so done.
oh, you're just like, I don't want to see any of you
Yeah.
for at least 3 weeks.
that's
You know, and that's
pretty
just humans.
concentrated.
Humans inherently create conflict
sure.
with each other, and that doesn't mean they're bad. That's human.
But you got your Brandon brothers now.
But I figured when we make these videos, they always want to see. I mean, High in Life is about positivity and about like having fun, and I think
Right.
that's what people go for, especially on the vlogs. But like, it's hard to do it sometimes. Like, you saw me in Mexico. I fucking wasn't even on camera because I was so angry, right, Ben? But I was a piece of shit when I was there, absolutely. And that's why you don't see me much of the content except for diving underwater, because you can't hear me talk.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so I didn't feel like, you know, pretending like I was having a good time, because I was having a rough go.
well, you know what, man? I think part of High in Life's like message in the future or moving forward, maybe it could be, you know, it's okay to
It's okay to be sad.
Yeah, it's okay to be sad.
Houston.
I think we have that video.
Yeah, we do have that video. Yeah.
Well, I do think that the message of the channel is always going to be
Oh,
positivity,
Right.
but like openness too.
for sure.
And I think I feel like it's the way it's going through everything we've been through. It's just like, yeah, we're always like, even though we're talking about all our shit and our problems right now and how we have stuff going on, I still have great days. I still I still have a thrill for life, and everything's good. So there's both sides, but like, why not make it a bit more dynamic and still be able to talk about real stuff so people can connect, right? So it doesn't always have to be happiness and villas and good times, right? It's true.
Yeah.
So I like it. I found more of a voice talking about how I really feel than just, you know, I don't really like vlogging all too much, to be honest. I don't like just holding a camera there and like showing like, this is
Good
what we're
attitude.
doing. I'd rather just sit here and talk. This is what I'm naturally doing, is having a conversation. That script that I wrote for that travel video, that was me sitting down and releasing onto a piece of paper and just allowing myself to. If you didn't laugh, it would have been normal.
See, this is what High in Life's all about.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Anyways, he was allowing me to just put my thoughts in a condensed area and just put it down there.
And we have seen the response to that.
It was positive. Yeah, I liked it a lot.
Positive.
I think that's a cool thing. Like, how do you like? And you guys have always been super good at this. Like, how do you just roll with life? You know, like I think that's the crazy thing is like life's gonna beat you up.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like I don't know anyone that has gotten through a majority of their life and was like, yeah, that was super easy, no problem.
Yeah.
You know, like
Liars.
No, exactly. It's like it's 0%, and so like it becomes a bigger question of like, how do you deal with struggle? How do you deal with like the shitty days? How do you deal with the times that nothing goes your way? How do you find that person that you know you are inside when you're so far away from them that you think they're gone? You know, and like, and all of that adds up to like this thing that you end up looking back on life and you're like, shit, I did it as good as possible. You know, and I think that's what you guys stand for so well, is like, you know, you can have a shitty situation and be positive in it. You can be in a complete mess of life and still take it in a way where you're like, cool, I accept that is, and we're going to do what we can with it. You know, I think so many of us try and hold on to life in a way, and we try and force things rather than just like dealing with it as it is, and actually have like a good approach to the way you're coming at it. You know,
I got this message from Ben. He says, part of life is going through the rough stuff. You can still be high on life even when life is not ideal. It's just about knowing that life continues and gets better, and it gets better.
It does. Yeah,
go.
especially
My
if you
2
hold
cents
on
long.
to it. Yeah.
In the
Good one,
end,
Ben.
everything will be okay. If it's not okay, it's not the end.
Oh, that's good too.
Ooh.
well played.
Put that on a shirt and sell that.
I
shit,
read
bro.
that somewhere. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's cool. That's true though.
Julian, I did want to mention, while we were very briefly on the topic of having fun and making videos, I'd love for High on Life to get involved in one of these Chasing Sunrise events that you.
I got a
so
place that's
famously-
24 and a half hours away that I've wanted to go to for a very long time.
Did you say
Where?
24 and a half hours away?
Yeah.
Tijuana, Mexico.
Okay.
No,
No, it's farther than Tijuana.
it's just a little bit further.
Oh,
Is
it's
it in Mexico?
No,
going up. Going right? Going left?
secrets.
Hawaii.
All right, sign
You
me
guys
up.
have to just
Why don't we
commit.
just do that?
Oh,
Why don't
we should.
why don't we just get in a
ourselves.
van blindly? You just tell me what I need to pack for, and we just do it.
All right. The title is "We Did Not."
You
Know
don't need to
Where
wear
He Was
much.
Taking Us.
Oh.
You're not leaving the van for more than an hour.
Is it? Oh, is it 24?
24
and a half hours
Oh.
doesn't mean driving.
No, we'll be driving.
Oh, what was
I'm
that?
just making it up.
talking.
Nah, that's good. Well, I'm into it.
But anyways, just like with all the introduction and talking about what CS is and what it stands for and what it's like to actually be a part of it and experience it and how crazy it is and that great feeling that you have getting there at 5 a.m. and the rest of the world's not even awake yet. We should film it. We should make a nice proper video. We
Yeah.
should get
I think we'd have
involved,
some fun.
do it, show the audience
Yeah.
exactly what we're talking about.
Can we invite
right
the
now.
audience?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Because that was the cool follow-on for Mexico. So a year later, we came back with 70 of us.
Really?
Wait, you did it twice?
Done it multiple times.
No. What?
Why have I never heard this before?
Yeah.
This is crazy.
This.
Because so the first time we did it, it was just like there's a lot of unknowns.
How weird is that at the border when you've got like a
Just-
convoy of people?
It's
the
like
first
the
car.
reverse of immigration.
Oh, you got Canadian passports? What are you doing down in Mexico? Well, we're just here for tacos and we're going to leave. Yeah, okay, sure, whatever. Why don't you pull over here? Next. Yeah, we're here for tacos. We're going to leave. What? Like 10 cars are all saying the same thing?
Oh,
That's
so
funny.
The most awkward thing is when you get back to Vancouver because you've left the Vancouver border or like Canada border.
Yeah.
Then you've gone across the US-Mexico border. Then you come back across the Mexico-US border. And
Yeah.
then you come back across the US-Canada border. And the person there is like, you did what? Like, because they can see that you've gone
Right,
all that
of course.
way
Yeah.
in that period of time. And they're like,
Something's fishy.
something, they just can't put it together, but
Right,
they're
right,
just...
right.
You couldn't be up to no good. You were just driving the whole time.
Yeah,
That
but
is
it was cool. We did the second one with I think there was 68 of us, and so there
I
was
have a hard time just imagining.
there
how,
was 12 vans or trucks or cars or whatever, and they're just like interweaving their way down the I-5, and everyone's in this group chat sharing their location, and
That's
like
hilarious.
all of a sudden you see that one group is veering off because they want to go to Death Valley and add another 5 hours onto their trip.
Don't ride your bikes
Um,
there.
Apparently.
Yeah, I thought he was going to say Denny's. I was like, oh, yeah.
No,
I was thinking a fast food stop. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Oh, you realize how bad the food is in the United States? Like along
We
the I-5.
experienced
Don't
that.
say it. We're gonna have to cut that out now.
It's
That's not.
That's-
No,
but
that's
it's
clearly-
real, man. Like,
Clearly, you've never had Whataburger.
Oh,
like it's
Oh,
delicious.
yeah.
But like, you just try and stop at like these places along the I-5, and it's like there's nothing that's fresh.
of nutritional
You
value.
know? Like, and I'm cool to
struggled.
say that. You know, like I'm cool to call those
Call
things
it
out.
out.
Like
I think
you are
just-
made
if
up of what
say
you
it all is bad. It's not true, but I definitely like we were moving quickly, but like man, to find something that wasn't a chain,
Yeah.
that wasn't, you know, a Whataburger or like an Applebee's or whatever.
Finding food that was actually alive.
I mean, I'll be honest, after a while I wanted a salad, and I remember getting a salad and it had like chunks of big cheddar cheese and like chopped up pepperoni sticks on it. I'm like, what the fuck?
Pepperoni
Sugar
sticks.
Yeah, exactly. I was like,
Really?
It's delicious.
yeah, it was
though.
that casino in like Nevada or something.
Oh, I remember that.
remember that.
Right? Yeah.
I remember
so,
that.
so yeah, you're right. I had a hard time finding good food.
It's
there.
a struggle. It's not easy, you know, and like we
So
generally
70 people driving down.
Did everyone participate driving? By the way,
So
was that a rule?
we try and encourage people to set up the cars so that nobody, like, you don't drive for more than like 3 or 4 hours. So like in a van of 6 people, you'd want at least 4 drivers, because then you can just swap.
Yeah.
But if you do it right, you have a minivan, so you have like the 2, 2, and 2.
Yeah.
And everyone's got tons of ample space. You can chill out. You have like the quiet section in the back for when you want to nap, or you're introverted, or you don't want to, you know, you just want to, let's be honest, half the world is introverted, you know, like, but we just don't create spaces for them.
That's true.
That's
How many
just
introverts are signing up for this cross-country
Do you make them
drive?
feel like a checkbox that you're introverted?
We actually do. Yeah, that's actually one thing like we've been super critical of, like, since the early days. Like, who are you and how are you showing up? You know, like, I'm
Okay.
pretty outgoing, but Gordon, my partner, he's super introverted. You know, and he just likes his quiet space. That's how he recharges. And I'll never forget, like, we were throwing this event. They were putting like a whole bunch of people on buses and driving them out. And to me, like, that's my version of heaven.
Yeah.
I'm like, throw me on a bus. There's a lot of people. We're high-fiving. It's super loud. I get super stoked, super high on life.
Ah,
we
thank you
go.
for getting it right.
Got it.
Yeah.
And cut.
We got it.
Got it.
Print it.
Put it on a shirt. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Send
put
it.
shirt inside.
And I was just chatting with him, and he's like, dude, that's my version of hell. And I
Yeah.
was like, explain this to me.
Yeah.
You know, and he was just like, I like smaller groups of people. Like, and it just made me realize after that conversation how, like, we create experiences in our lives only through our own lens. You know, when you start to ask around, you realize that half the population is introverted, you know, but most of the event spaces we create are designed where you just have a big room like this and you put all those people in there and you say, go do your thing, you know. And so it's, yeah, those types of things have always been something really important for us since early days of, like, how do you respect who somebody is and the way they're showing up and where they're at, you know.
So is there like a quiet section for Chasing Sunrise?
Yeah, like if we do like trips throughout the day, there's certain spots that are scheduled where people have complete permission to just, like, go chill out, you know. So like if we're doing a road trip like that, we'll meet up and we'll have certain cars where, you know, this car right now is just going to be for a bunch of people that want to chill out and just throw their headphones in, and it's not awkward because everybody in the car has their headphones and it's, like, designated that that's what that's there for. And just try and, like, we don't have all the answers there. We don't know what all those spaces are, but we'll always create the space for people to be able to contribute and say what they need. And that's
Feel a
where
part of it too.
yeah, totally, right? And that's one of the really interesting things, like, as an extroverted person, like, that process has taught me to basically close my mouth and listen a lot more and just be able to, like, ask somebody a question and be like, cool. Because I'm so used to throwing my thoughts and opinions out there, which I just immediately thought everybody else would, and didn't realize that, like, some people need a little bit more space to put that out there. But when you actually get to what somebody actually needs, that's when you can give them the space they want and are asking for. So yeah, that's actually a big part of what we try and subtly bring into everything we do without ever making it a thing, you know. You never want to, like, make that something that all of a sudden makes somebody feel awkward.
Yeah.
So.
I play with that a lot, actually, like who's introverted, who's extroverted, but I would say I'm a hybrid.
Yeah.
To be perfect, there's lots of moments where I'm extroverted, where I like being around a bunch of people, I'm comfortable, and there's days where I fucking hate being around people, and I just want to sit in my room and just, I don't know, read, do something by myself, go for a walk. I don't need to be around people, and I think that's okay. But, like, I don't like being either one or the other. You know, there's certain times of the day that are, you know, chill and I want to be by myself. Other times I'm happy to be in a big group of people. But, like, it depends on what the day is. But like being on a bus with a bunch of people, that could be a lot of fun for me, or that could be my hell.
Yeah.
Either day, it just depends how you get me, really. Yeah.
I know what Parker's personal version of hell is. It's being on a bus with 40 other people and Backstreet Boys is playing.
Oh, Vietnam.
Nice
And
one.
everyone is singing I
Wow.
Want It That Way.
I got really upset.
Yeah, he was very upset.
Were you yelling?
What's the story there?
No, oh, no. When I'm upset, I'm quiet. I'm real quiet.
Tell him the story.
I don't know why.
It was Vietnam. We were in
I
Vietnam.
guess I just maybe it started by being a little bit tired or something. I wasn't in a particularly bad mood to begin with. Though we're on a bus and we're heading to a cool spot like the red sand dunes or something, or the white sand dunes maybe, and we're gonna do a big slide and it's gonna be awesome and everyone's excited, everyone's pumped. I don't really know most of the people yet anyways, so like I'm not really friends with the majority of them. They're just other people who are all excited and they have their different energies. And I don't know, for one reason or another, my energy just wasn't necessarily vibing with everybody else's energy. And like a lot of people were speaking other languages that I didn't know what they were saying. A lot of people were like really loud and had annoying voices. Some people were really quiet, and that's fine, do your thing. But for some reason, the mix of everything was starting to just kind of like, all right, like just everyone chill out a little bit. And then Backstreet Boys came on, and it was just one of those songs that everybody knows the words to, but nobody sings it nicely. They just belt out the lyrics as hard as they can. And so now you got 40 people that I'm already a little bit on edge with for some reason, all just screaming Backstreet Boys, and I wasn't feeling it. I don't know why it happened, but I was in a bad mood.
Do you know in an airplane when they tell you to brace and put your head between your legs? That was
Doesn't
him.
happen too often, but I know the position.
So that was him for like 2 minutes.
Fuck.
I just didn't want to hear it anymore. I didn't want to hear any more
okay, man.
terrible screaming of Backstreet Boys.
I want it.
No, way louder and
I'm not gonna
higher
yell it.
pitch.
Tell me why.
It's like that times 40. Oh man,
Good vocals.
Yeah. You sing, by the way?
Oh, I do from time to time.
Hey, were you ever in drama for 3 years?
I was.
Love it.
We'll get into that on the next
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Ideal trip. We go do something the next week or next month, not including that you're going to Bali very soon. What would you do around here? It doesn't mean around here at this time. Like we can go anywhere, I guess. There's no limit.
There's so many, man. Like I'm always a big fan of like opportunistic things. So like when seasons change,
Yeah.
you know, so it's like we're about to go into melt
When the
season.
flowers are blooming.
When the flowers are blooming, or when the rivers are high and you can get floaties and go down them slightly dangerously.
Yeah.
Yeah, we like that.
So it's like there's so many things you could do around here. Like seasons changing, that means half the lakes are almost melting. So we could go get a bunch of wetsuits, go rent a bunch of tubes, and go hit some rope swings into some slushy, icy snow into a frozen lake.
It does sound pretty fun.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does sound pretty
After
good.
you released, I guess, the video of you guys doing that at Brome Lake,
Yeah, bro.
I was gonna
It's the
ask.
go-to.
I was gonna ask you if you wanted to go do that again, but we were gonna make a video for High on Life.
Did you guys do that
Remember
rope
that.
swing where if you don't clear the ground, you die sort of thing?
Yeah, I've done that one.
Yeah, that one's
fun.
scary. I
We
did
don't
it
do events there. There's liability.
What
Yeah,
lake
no,
is
big
that?
lines.
Is
I've
that
done.
Brome?
Yeah, that's Brome.
Oh, yeah,
I
there's a
did it
couple
a number
swings
of
there.
times because Riker and Russia convinced me that they weren't gonna do it anymore, so I had to do it. And it's scary. I didn't
There's
like
a
it.
video
There's Brome, and then there's Lions Bay as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brome was the one where you grab that rope with a big stick.
Yeah.
And then you look down and you're like, okay, I really need to swing out because if I don't let go at the end of this and I start coming back, I'm gonna break some bones.
I'm dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how you get people to commit to things, though, which we all know we have a big problem with.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, all just gotta be stoked.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd love to go do that.
Yeah, I think that's a fun thing, man. Like, you start to realize that life is just what you imagine it to be, and I think that's where like mindset is so damn important. Like you can have so much. One of the most fun days I've ever had in my life was Brome, and we showed up and the whole thing was frozen over.
Yeah.
And you're just like, we had wetsuits and floaties, and we totally thought it was going to be melted, and it wasn't. And so we just basically started to like break open the ice all the way down this lake. And before you knew it, we had a whole bunch of people sitting in there floating around, breaking ice on sups, and everybody's freezing cold, but it's just everybody's laughing, everyone's having a ton of fun. And like I always go back to in a situation like that, like once I'm back home and I'm warm in my bed, was it worth it? But
Yeah.
it's always worth it. But the immediate reaction when you're sitting at home in bed that morning and someone's like, hey, do you want to go get super wet and cold? You're like, absolutely not.
Yeah, well, if you phrase it like that, then no. Yeah. I mean, that's my biggest problem right now is like I plan to get up and go do a sunrise shoot or go to the gym or something like that. But like for some reason, sleep wins 75% of the time because it's just so easy to be comfortable. It's so easy to choose comfort over. And then when you go to the gym, the time or whatever, and you're like, fuck, I'm so glad I went. I'm having such a great time. I'm energized. I know you have the best days. But sleep wins because it's comfortable, usually most of the time. So just like what you said, right? So you just got to make that decision and go chase that sunrise.
Yeah. Well, just move yourself to that place of like when it's said and done. You know, like there's a quote that I love. Nobody likes to write. Everybody loves to have written. Ooh. And it's like nobody loves the process of like actually sitting down and writing. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's some, but most people do not. But then everyone wants to have that thing at the end where like they want their words and their thoughts put out there.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's just always the thing is how do you get yourself out of the actual process of it and really motivated by what you're either going to get or teach yourself to fall in love with the process, you know, because like most of success, most of even like traveling or content creation is work, you know, and if all you want is that end result and that's the only thing that you can actually kind of focus on, you're probably toast because most of your life is going to be the hard stuff, the stuff that nobody sees. And I think there's a disconnect there, you know, it's kind of like most people want the prestige of being a lawyer, but the truth is a lawyer is basically a ton of reading documents, you know, so if you don't want to do that work, most of your life is going to be not what you want to do just to have this thing over here, you know? And so I think connecting those two is something that I think a lot of us have to do a lot more work on understanding before we go choose what we want to do.
That's insane. Yeah.
Yeah. It's well said. This guy's dropping knowledge over here.
Do you by any chance, or have you by any chance done the 30 days of cold showers thing?
I love
Wim Hof.
I've done. Yeah. I love, that's like going back to struggle. Like that's my favorite thing, man. Like I don't think we struggle enough anymore. Like talking about comfort. Like I think life has gotten so good for all of us that we forget what it's like to be uncomfortable. And then when life gets tough, we don't know how to deal with it, you know?
Oh yeah.
And that for me, like going through a lot of the stuff I've gone through in the last 2 years, that's been just one of the most powerful practices. So like my favorite days are the days where lakes are half frozen and they're still slushy. And you just dig a little hole and you just go sit in the hole for 2 minutes. But you just realize how much of that is just a sensation, you know, like your body's freaking out, but none of it's actually real. Like cold showers aren't going to kill you. You can be in a cold shower for like probably 30 minutes and you're totally fine, you know, but you get in there for the first 30 seconds and you're freaking out.
If you can even make 30 seconds.
Yeah. But that's with practice, you know, like, and I think I went from doing like 30-second cold showers to 10-minute cold showers in under 2 weeks. And it's just by training and practicing and just being okay with sitting with discomfort, you know? And I think that's like for me, such a powerful practice as far as like doing that stuff you don't want to do is you learn to be uncomfortable for like the first 5 minutes getting up in the morning.
Callousing and then it's over. Your mind. Yeah.
So did you wear a jacket on the way here today?
I wore a very thin jacket.
Huh. Okay.
He doesn't have to be cold all the time.
Yeah, I went from being cold for 10 seconds to 24 hours a day. Yeah.
Well, you just like
I now sleep outside.
Under the crazy assumption that some of life is going to suck. How do you teach yourself to be okay with that? You know, and that's just something I've really tried to hold on to because I'm like, I've been through some hard blows in life, you know, and like the more you go through them, the more you realize you're like, okay, the better I get at this, not the easier life becomes, but the more I can actually make the most of even the worst moments, you know?
Yeah, totally. I agree with that so much. Yeah.
It's like traveling. How much of traveling is sitting in airports and like sitting on planes or like just getting from A to B?
4%.
Should we throw in numbers here? Yeah.
I need to go traveling with you, man.
Yeah.
4%.
I mean,
I think we should.
To what you said though, like, I mean, I'd say for me at least, just everything that happened in the summer, that's the worst thing I've ever had to go through, and all the stuff after it. But like, if you look at the silver lining out of it, I feel like I understand life a lot more. There's so much more room for let's say there's like, you know, you live in your lows and your highs. I think I was living right in the middle, never really anything super low. Yeah, a lot of high and stuff, but now that I hit a low, there's so much room to feel. And like, even if you go down, you know that there's happiness there, and you know there's a sadness. Shit. But like, from that range of emotion and feeling and understanding life, I feel like I live more now every single day because I'm happy, sad, but I'm up and down, and I'm not just in this kind of superficial middle line where nothing's ever happened to me. Like we talk about traveling and seeing the world, but I feel like I've just started seeing my own life and my emotion now and understanding that. So like, I feel like I'm more I wouldn't say fulfilled, but like a more whole of a human being now that that's happened, that I've lived more life because I've been through something horrible, a tragedy, So never wish that it ever happened, but like if you got to take the good things out of the bad, that's what I think was good that happened out of that.
I understand.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's very good. Producer is telling us to wrap because we've gone over for.
Well, we could go forever.
We could.
So, I mean, the producer.
Well, I got an idea.
Yeah.
Let's wrap for the cameras, and then we can just shoot the shit afterwards.
Sure.
For sure.
Is there a time limit on this thing though?
No, there isn't. There isn't.
Is there?
Technically, there probably has to be some.
Yeah,
Yeah, there has to be at some point. Actually, I did.
No, I've seen Joe Rogan.
We don't know what we're doing right now.
Let's get. And Alex Jones is joining us.
Okay. I did want to go through. Change topic a little bit. You had some truth bombs back there. You were talking about like these little truth gems about travel that I thought were very interesting. Do you have any more of those?
Yeah. So that was the one about like where we spend our money, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's been something that's been on my mind a lot. Like we ran a trip to Nepal, specifically Everest Base Camp last year, and a trip to Morocco early this year.
Yeah.
And it was cool. The trip to Morocco, there were 60 of us that went on this Spirit Quest style road trip throughout Morocco. And it really made me realize like how much of an impact we have when we go travel. And in a good way, like
okay.
we're coming in and like, because I was organizing the trip, I know how much money is going to all these places. And it wasn't a small amount of money, and I was chatting with the local guide that we had hired to run it. And I was just asking like how this actually impacts him, his business, where the money goes. Because I'm really interested in how we preserve countries and cultures as the world begins to shrink. And we start to see more of it all the time, and I think it made me realize as a trip organizer how much responsibility I have to make sure the money's going to the right places. And it just got me really curious about like where most of the money for travel goes. And I don't have the exact numbers, but like when you think about like getting on a cruise ship, if you get on a cruise ship and you're going to just say Jamaica, and the cruise ship company owns the port, which a lot of cruise ship companies do. You spend the money on the cruise ship, which stays with the company. You then get to the port, and all the money that you spend in Jamaica stays with the company. And so you've gone to this country, seen it, and come home, and never actually really put any money in their economy. And you might have walked away thinking that you did, but you actually didn't. And I think there's a lot of little questions about that as travel starts to become something that is more and more ubiquitous, that like how we travel and where our money goes with travel really matters. And that responsible travel isn't just not riding elephants, but actually investing in the countries and cultures that we love in a way that allows them to preserve themselves. And I think that's something that anyone in the travel space right now has to be thinking about, because before you know it, you'll end up with these places like we've done in Mexico, where majority of the resorts simply cater to the lifestyles of the North. And you start thinking about Bali, and Bali's a really large percentage of expats there. And so what does that do to the Balinese culture? And you start to project these things 20, 30 years out. And does the Bali that existed in the 1990s still even remotely exist in 2030? And do we want it to? And like my answer is absolutely keep the world and the cultures diversified. I think that's such a beautiful part of human existence. But the more we travel, the more we're going to blend that together. And so the more we promote travel, I think the more responsibility each and every single one of us has to look at the way we do this and then put our money and our time into ways that continue to reinforce what we want. And so there's a lot of stuff in that space that I'm thinking about right now, because it's literally just the sum of millions of little decisions when you spend money, or you spend time, or you go visit one country over another, that adds up to reinforcing what travel continues to be 20, 30 years down the road. So
wow. Very good point.
Yeah. Well, you see it, like the amount of beaches, and you have this picture, and then you get there, and it's like the pictures from like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And the beach looks nothing like that. It's this beautiful beach, and all of a sudden now it's completely developed. And you're seeing this all throughout like the Yucatan Peninsula. Tulum's a really good example of like Tulum slowly starting to shift. Sayulita in Mexico is another good example that it's shifted a ton. And the influx of money is awesome for the local economy. But what has it done to that space? And I think like Costa Rica is another really good example that's on the fringes there, shifting. And we, as the people traveling to these places and putting our money down, do have somewhat of a say of who we give that money to and what ends up happening with that. And so that's just something I've really been thinking about as we hire different tour companies and work with different tour companies to run trips, is where is that money going? Is it being invested back into the local economy? Is that actually going to increase the quality of life there while preserving what exists? Or is it simply being paid to somebody and then being shipped off to another country and never actually touching the people that are there other than maybe the wage they get? So
That's a really good point that I haven't really thought about much, actually, to be perfectly honest. Like going to Mexico, we went to Walmart a bunch of times to buy stuff because it was convenient and it was easy.
And it's cheap.
And it's cheap. But like, yeah, totally. That's not going back to anyone's pockets. It does facilitate a lot of jobs, which is nice, but yeah.
Goose goes back to Uncle Wally.
Yeah, no shit. That's good. No, that's a good one. I like that one a lot. That's gonna stay with me for future trips.
Are you really traveling? Part 2.
Yeah, exactly. Go to Walmart. Don't go to Walmart.
Well, I think that's such a cool thing about today. Like in just say 20 years ago, we didn't have the chance to have that discussion. There was no place for it, but now with the way social media has connected us and with the spaces that exist, we can start to have those conversations and we can actually start to influence people in positive ways, and I think starting those discussions is hard, but like generally once they get going and they start to have steam, and as long as it's something that people agree on or at least have valid, diverse opinions on, there's a healthy discussion around it. And that can be facilitated more today than ever before. And so it's like, how do we start to kick those off? And you're seeing it happen in climate. You're seeing it slowly start to happen in travel. But yeah, definitely really passionate about like having those discussions early and often so that we invest in making the right decisions rather than just haphazardly going about it and then looking back and being like, oh shit, that place that we loved is no longer that place anymore and we don't have it, and you see that in a lot of beautiful spots in BC that are slowly getting eroded for what they were now. And you realize that if we have those conversations early on, we can protect the things that we absolutely love while still driving a ton of people to get the chance to experience them.
Do you think Bali is doomed to be just a huge resort island at one point? And then they'll just move on to the rest of Indonesia. But do you think Bali will cease to exist the way it does now or decades ago?
I think it's already shifted a lot.
I know it has shifted. Absolutely. But is it just going to keep on going and going and going, or is someone going to draw the line at some point and let's hold it at least here?
That's why he's going to Bali. He's going to draw the line.
I'm gonna go draw that line. I'm gonna go in the sand and I'll draw the line.
Yeah, it's like,
this is where you cannot build.
Yeah,
they're just going to create Bali 2 and Bali 3.
Oh, they already have.
They'll stop it at one point. It won't ever become 100% full-blown big tourist circle of land. But they will have other ones that are the new ones that are going to stay. It's the same thing that's always happened. When I was a kid, I had a book. Don't remember what it's called. I can look it up for you at some point. But it was about these people that drive out to this new little hill, and there's nobody around this hill, and it's nice. And they're like, well, let's all hang out here. Okay, well, you know what? I want my area, and you have your area, so let's put up fences. Okay, so they all got fences. Okay, well, it's like, I want a little house on mine, and you want a house on yours. Okay, well, let's do houses. And they all start building houses. Next thing you know, they become a full city, and it's now polluting the environment, and it's now this and that, and it's like this big industrial thing over time. And so they're like, hey, you know what? I want what we had before, let's leave. And so they leave that, they go to a new hill, and it starts all over again. It's the oldest thing in the book.
That's called being human.
Yeah, it's civilization. That's how it works. So
it's how the formation of society was done.
Is that what's happening to Bali? Yeah, 100%. That's what's happening to Bali.
Well, I think like one that's a whole, you could do multiple podcasts on that, but I think that's the really cool thing that like we, for the first time in human history, we have the potential for collective voice. Like if we no longer want that way to exist.
Right.
We have the tools, and you see this with Arab Springs.
Yes.
And we're seeing it with potentially Arab Springs too. And you're seeing this all over. You're seeing this. The kids that are 12 years old are suing the United States government right now because of climate change. 12-year-old kids.
Something interesting happened just a few days ago. It started on Reddit. Somebody started this hashtag called, I think, Trash Bag Day or something like that.
Yeah.
And basically, it's encouraged people to basically pick up trash wherever they are and post a picture of them doing it. And apparently this trend has been catching on, and entire beaches have been cleaned because of this hashtag Trash bag day or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I saw
That's
that.
great. That's really cool, actually. Yeah.
Kind of
But is
unfortunate that it has to be like a publicity.
That's the
stunt to
thing,
do
though,
it.
and this is a whole other conversation, is how many people are doing that just so they can post it and share it.
Well,
Are they doing it because they actually want to clean up the beach?
Yeah, I'm doing a good
Then
deed.
again, if it cleans up the
If it
beach,
cleans
I
up
don't
the
really
beach,
care.
yeah.
But it's probably a trend that's going to die in a week or two, which is sad. Imagine this just carried on, and that's what we did for the rest of our lives, just cleaned up beaches and shared it. That'd be
Well,
awesome.
cleaning up for yourselves is something people should do.
We should probably start by cleaning up our apartment because it's fucking messy.
Yeah, I'm not crashing at your place anymore.
I think that's like a funny thing is like just accepting humans for what they are. Like, and I think Elon Musk nailed this. Is he's like he wanted to build green cars that were electric, but he also knew that people didn't buy cars that are electric. They bought cars that are fast and sexy.
Mm-hmm.
So what did he do? He built a car that was fast and sexy that happened to be green. You know, and most people that bought the early Teslas didn't buy them because they were green.
Yeah.
They bought them because they went super fast and they look like a sex symbol driving them.
Yeah, it's true.
And so he just sits there and he goes, I don't care. They're in a car. It's green. And it's no longer polluting
Yeah.
the environment. So that's kind of the view that I take. You know, like there's this utopian world that I'm like, I wish people would just pick up their own trash and not litter in the first place. But if that's going to be humans, we have to accept that right now.
Yeah,
You know, like,
it's
and
being real.
if using a hashtag to get them to clean up the beach is what it takes, cool, let's do it. Let's play that game, you know?
Should we go on? Should we keep going? I think we could.
I mean,
but
do we have to?
yeah, he's doing that. He's doing it.
All right, that's fine. That's fine.
fine. We
Okay,
can-
Let's cut it.
I like the conversation, but I think we do have to respect that we don't have this room for, and we got to pack up.
Yeah,
and
we don't have
wives at
forever
home.
here. But
I think we should. Oh, fuck! I want to keep on talking forever. Let's go to a bar.
Schedule
Let's
another
go.
one, man. We can
Yeah,
like,
we can,
can,
you know what? There's no
we
reason
should
why
put
we
a
can't do one.
podcast in the van as we drive.
wow,
24-hour
I actually
podcast.
thought about. I don't want
Mic, camera.
I don't want to talk for that long, but I actually
You
thought
You
about.
just swap out seats.
You know how exactly? You know how Seinfeld does the driving for a bit, whatever,
Yeah.
but not as
Coffee with
ridiculous as that. We could just go on a road trip and just record the entire conversation. I bet.
What's
we would
that
go through
comedian,
some
James
shit.
Corden or
Yeah,
James
yeah,
Corden.
James Corden? Yeah,
same.
there you go. It's like
Yeah,
but
yeah.
24-hour marathon
Yeah.
version.
You
Yeah.
can sing in the front seat.
yeah, that's right.
That's about it. That's the show right there.
That's all I'll be doing.
Perfect. I want to do a road trip. Let's fucking
yeah,
do it.
let's
do
do
it.
Sorry for the F bombs. Let's do it.
Where
down.
can we find your stuff? On what platforms or whatever?
Yeah, if you just go Google Chasing Sunrise, it should be the first thing that pops up. And then you can follow along on Instagram at Chasing Sunrise and find me personally at DeSchutes.
Perfect. And the spelling will be right here.
In front of you?
I don't know. Right
In front of me?
here.
Somewhere
I can't reach
here.
over there. Yeah, it's going to spell all the way across.
Yeah. So
That was a good one.
Yeah, yeah.
That was the deepest we've gotten in any podcast, I think.
You just said the last one we did was the best.
I didn't say this was the best. I said this was the deepest.
oh yes,
It's true.
But they're all very different. But this is the one where I think we got.
Mine doesn't have to be the best. It's okay.
I didn't. Josh.
It's not my mom.
this
You
guy.
don't have to tell them we're all your favorites.
No,
This is
but
the
what
best
I'm
one.
saying, it was nice to get real and just talk because like there's no agenda. We just did it. I like that.
Yeah, let's go.
I
This is
appreciate
fun.
that. Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me,
Julian?
boys.
Yeah, you
Nice
betcha,
to
Julian.
Yeah.
catch
Great
up.
having you on board.
I miss you guys.
Yeah.
And for everyone
Come
out
hang out.
there in the world, on the internet space, if you're living on flat Earth, that's cool. You can catch us on High on Life. We post videos. Try to do twice a week now. Leave us a comment. Follow all of us on our socials. We'll see you next week.
Wow. I think we just lost a bunch of followers because they're like, fuck, this guy's not
We did too long a
enthusiastic.
podcast. We're
Yeah,
just
we're
flopping
burned
on the
out.
closing.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye. Woo.
Outro done.
Yeah.